We're jumping straight into Oklo today. Everyone is watching the price action, but the real story is the unprecedented speed of their recent nuclear regulatory approval.
Exactly. You're tuned into the Easy Money Show where we make sense of the market's biggest moves. I'm glad you're with us.
Yeah, so before we pull apart the mechanics of how this single company is seemingly rewiring the intersection of artificial intelligence and baseload power, do yourself a favor. Hit subscribe and smash that like button right now.
It really helps us keep bringing you these noise-free market simplifications.
Right, exactly. So let's get into it. We are looking at Oklo. And for anyone who hasn't been glued to the tape, this is a pre-revenue advanced nuclear developer.
Which is wild because almost overnight, they've become, the ultimate bellwether stock for the entire AI power nexus.
Yeah, they are creating this massive gravitational pull, dragging the whole sector up with them. We're seeing legacy and peer companies like NuScale and Cameco rallying in sympathy just purely based on Oklo's momentum.
Well, the market dynamics here are just fascinating because we're witnessing a collision of two completely different worlds, right? You have the hyperscalers and their insatiable exponential energy demands on one side.
Oh yeah, the AI data centers.
Exactly, the data centers. And on the other side, you have the rigid, historically sluggish, and incredibly bureaucratic world of civil nuclear infrastructure.
And Oklo is positioning itself directly on the fault line of those two tectonic plates.
Yeah.
Honestly, looking at their current market position, it feels exactly like watching a tech startup that just discovered a literal cheat code for Washington bureaucracy.
It really does.
I mean, navigating federal energy regulations is historically where nuclear innovation goes to stall for a decade, bleed capital, and eventually die.
Die a very slow, expensive death. Yeah.
Right. But they seem to have bypassed the traditional gauntlet entirely. How do they actually manage that?
So that cheat code analogy hits the nail on the head, and it brings us to the very foundation of the bull case, which is their regulatory moat. I mean, look at the past 30 days. The stock has delivered a massive 63.29% return.
Which is just insane.
It is. Zoom out to the past year, and it's a 193.58% return. That kind of explosive momentum isn't just like retail hype on a message board. It represents a fundamental re-rating by institutional capital.
Because of a massive de-risking event with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, right? The NRC.
Exactly. The NRC approved the principal design criteria for Oklo's Aurora powerhouse in Idaho.
Okay, but let's translate that, because a phrase like principal design criteria sounds like pure bureaucratic alphabet soup. If I'm an investor, why should I actually care about this specific piece of paper?
Think of it this way. Historically, getting a nuclear plant approved was like asking a city for a custom, highly specialized building permit for every single brick, wire, and pipe in a massive skyscraper.
Like starting from absolute zero every time.
Right. Every single component had to be analyzed from scratch. But what Oklo did by securing approval for their principal design criteria is fundamentally different. They got the NRC to approve a master architectural blueprint.
Oh, so instead of fighting for custom permits on every new project, they just point to the pre-approved master plan.
Precisely. It creates a repeatable, performance-based licensing framework. But the real shockwave, the thing that stunned everyone, was the speed. The NRC accepted this topical report in just 15 days.
Wait, 15 days? What's the normal timeline?
Typically, the review and acceptance period for this kind of foundational regulatory filing is somewhere between 30 to 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah, the agency literally cut its own timeline in half.
Okay, I have to stop you there, because federal agencies don't just speed up for no reason. What is the physical mechanism here? Why did the NRC look at Oklo's design and say, sure, 15 days, we're good, when other companies get tied up in reviews for months or even years?
It basically comes down to the physics of their Aurora reactor. So traditional nuclear plants are massive, high-pressure, water-cooled systems, right?
Right, the giant cooling towers we all picture.
Exactly. Regulators have to spend thousands of hours modeling what happens if a high-pressure pipe bursts or a water pump fails, because that leads to a meltdown.
Which is a nightmare scenario.
Total nightmare. But Oklo's design uses a liquid metal cooling system and operates at near atmospheric pressure. It relies on passive safety.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning, if all the power cuts out and the operators just walk away, the reactor naturally cools itself down using basic laws of physics, natural circulation and gravity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because the system is inherently simpler and physically cannot undergo the types of high-pressure accidents seen in older reactors, the regulatory burden drops drastically.
There's just less that can go catastrophically wrong.
Exactly. So there's less for the NRC to endlessly analyze.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. They strip the mechanical complexity out of the reactor, which inherently strip the bureaucratic complexity out of the paperwork. That's a massive intellectual property moat.
A huge one.
But, a brilliant blueprint means nothing if you can't actually power the machine. And that brings us to what I think is their operational masterstroke, which is the fuel strategy.
Hmm.
Because right now, the global supply chain for advanced nuclear fuel is a complete bottleneck.
Oh, it's a mess. Everyone is fighting over a tiny supply of specialized uranium. We are talking about HALEU, high assay, low enriched uranium.
Right. And to understand the bottleneck, we have to look at the chemistry here. Traditional legacy reactors run on uranium enriched to about 5%.
Yeah, and advanced small modular reactors, like the ones Oklo's competitors are building, require fuel enriched to between 5% and 20%. That's the HALEU.
And the problem is that the global commercial supply chain for HALEU is severely constrained.
Severely.
Hmm.
And historically, it's been heavily reliant on Russian state-owned infrastructure, which obviously is now a massive geopolitical liability.
Yeah, so if you are a competitor relying solely on fresh HALEU, your entire deployment timeline is totally out of your hands. You're at the mercy of global supply shocks and enrichment bottlenecks.
Exactly. You could build the perfect reactor and then just have it sit empty for years waiting for fuel. But Oklo recognized this fatal flaw in the industry and engineered a complete workaround. They decided to employ a vertically integrated fuel recycling strategy.
And this is the part that is genuinely fascinating to me. They partnered directly with the Department of Energy and are utilizing the Advanced Fuel Center in Tennessee.
Yep. Instead of waiting in line to buy newly enriched HLU, they are tapping into surplus plutonium feedstock.
Basically taking discarded government material like Cold War-era liabilities and recycling it to run their reactors. It's crazy.
It is an absolute masterclass in supply chain risk mitigation. Just think about the economics of this for a second.
Right, while competitors are dealing with skyrocketing uranium prices.
And massive geopolitical risks, yeah. Oklo is taking material the government actively wants to get rid of and using federal infrastructure in Tennessee to process it. They took the biggest single vulnerability in the advanced nuclear sector, fuel acquisition, and transformed it into a zero-cost or even subsidized competitive advantage.
Okay, I see the bull case. The regulatory moat is deep, the fuel strategy is brilliant. But I have to play devil's advocate here and look at the balance sheet.
Fair enough.
Because building nuclear infrastructure is famously one of the most capital-intensive endeavors on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2025, Oklo reported an operating cash burn of $82.2 million.
True, but you have to look at the reserves. They closed 2025 sitting on $1.41 billion in cash, cash equivalents, and marketable securities.
What is a lot of cash?
Right, with an 82...
Exactly. But in the reality of physical nuclear construction, that money evaporates incredibly fast. Look at the recent plant Vogtle expansion in Georgia.
Oh, yeah, billions over budget.
Billions of dollars over budget and years behind schedule. If Oklo's physical construction in Idaho hits a major snag, or if inflation drives up the cost of specialized steel and labor, that $1.4 billion might only build half a reactor.
Well, that is a very valid critique. You absolutely cannot price infrastructure construction like a sauce product. However, we have to contextualize what that $1.41 billion actually buys them right now.
Which is what? Time.
Exactly, it buys them time. The time needed to secure the heavy project financing required for the actual physical build. Their current cash reserves ensure that for the retail investor today, the terrifying specter of near-term shareholder dilution is off the table.
Right, where a company has to issue millions of new shares just to keep the lights on.
Yeah, they don't have to do that. They are functioning essentially as an intellectual property and licensing company right now. That cash easily carries them through the IP, licensing, and pre-construction phases.
And they are definitely going to need that buffer to manage their massive customer pipeline.
Oh, the pipeline numbers are staggering. We're talking about 14 gigawatts of customer demand.
To put that in perspective for you listening, a single gigawatt is enough to power roughly 750,000 homes. Oklo is planning to build the equivalent energy output of several massive traditional nuclear power plants.
Just distributed across these smaller, advanced Aurora powerhouses, and it's all being driven by AI.
The AI demand is just insatiable.
It is. The macro tailwinds here cannot be overstated. Goldman Sachs projects that AI data center power demand will surge by 165% by the year 2030.
Because training large language models requires massive clusters of GPUs running at peak utilization for months at a time.
Exactly. The tech giants, the hyperscalers, have quickly realized you cannot run a gigawatt-scale AI training center on intermittent power. If the wind stops blowing or a cloud covers the solar farm, a brownout could ruin a multi-million-dollar training run.
They need absolute 99.999% uptime baseload power,
Yes, and they have made corporate commitments for that power to be carbon-free.
which isolates their options completely. It practically leaves nuclear as the only viable solution.
And Oklo is stepping right into that void. They've lined up a 12-gigawatt non-binding master power agreement with Switch, stretching out to 2044.
Wow, 2044.
Yeah. And they've got a 1.2 gigawatt project in Ohio with Meta Platforms. Plus, they have a 500 megawatt letter of intent with Equinix, which actually has some real teeth because Equinix backed it up with a $25 million prepayment.
Wait, so Equinix essentially fronted capital.
Exactly. It illustrates the sheer desperation in the tech sector for reliable power. A data center player like Equinix is giving capital to an advanced nuclear developer just to hold their place in line.
Wait, you keep saying non-binding and letters of intent. That sounds like counting your chickens before the eggs are even laid.
I mean, fair.
A press release about a 12-gigawatt agreement is great for driving retail momentum, but if it's non-binding, it means absolutely nothing on a cash flow statement.
Looking at the flip side, that is exactly the vulnerability here, and it perfectly transitions us into the bear case.
Right.
All of those impressive gigawatt figures we just discussed, they represent theoretical potential, not guaranteed revenue.
Yeah, let's ground ourselves in the present reality of their financials. They are completely pre-revenue. For the full year of 2025, they reported a net loss of $105.7 million. Today, as we speak, they have 0 operating powerhouses.
0. That is the ultimate execution risk. Oklo's target for their very first commercial power generation at that Idaho facility isn't until late 2027 at the absolute earliest.
And in the world of advanced nuclear development, 2 to 3 years is an eternity.
It really is. We have to acknowledge the historical reality of this sector, like you pointed out earlier. Unforeseen engineering challenges, supply chain bottlenecks for specialized components, and final safety sign-offs routinely push these timelines back.
And if those timelines get pushed, that $1.4 billion cash pile starts looking a lot smaller.
Exactly.
But beyond the internal execution risk of physically pouring the concrete and firing up the reactor, there's a massive external risk tethered to their current valuation. Because Oklo is trading essentially as a derivative of the AI boom, they are heavily exposed to AI demand sympathy risk.
This is a critical dynamic to understand. Oklo's share price is currently deeply coupled to the capital expenditure plans of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, let's look at what happened just a few weeks ago in late April 2026. We saw a sudden, sharp sell-off across all nuclear stocks, and Oklo took a hit along with the rest of them.
And the catalyst had absolutely nothing to do with nuclear energy.
Nothing at all, not the NRC, not uranium prices. The sell-off was triggered by reports leaking out that OpenAI had missed its internal usership and sales targets.
Which reveals the intense fragility of the overarching market narrative. The entire 14-gigawatt pipeline we discussed relies on the underlying assumption that tech giants will continue to expand their massive AI infrastructure at an exponential rate.
Uninterrupted.
Right, uninterrupted. When the market heard a dominant player like OpenAI was missing adoption targets, it sent a shockwave down the entire supply chain. Investors instantly modeled out a worst-case scenario. What if the AI bubble is cooling? What if enterprise adoption is slower than expected?
And if that happens, the hyperscalers are going to immediately slash their infrastructure budgets. And what happens to all those non-binding letters of intent Oklo signed?
They evaporate overnight.
Exactly. There are no massive cancellation fees for a non-binding agreement. The tech companies can simply walk away, and Oklo is left with a brilliant reactor design and literally no customers to buy the power.
That underlying anxiety is what is driving the extreme volatility in this stock. I mean, if we look at the trading data, the 52-week swing is just breathtaking.
It's wild.
We're talking about a stock that has traded as low as $25.70 and as high as $193.84.
A swing like that is the definition of high beta. You're feeling every single macroeconomic bump in the road. It perfectly explains why Jim Cramer was out there recently, warning retail investors, calling Oklo just too wild a trader.
Yeah, he's pointing out that the stock is moving on retail flow, AI sentiment, and momentum. It is definitely not trading like a traditional stable utility company.
Not even close.
No, it is trading at a price-to-book ratio of 9.4x. For a heady infrastructure and energy company, a PB ratio nearing 10 is astronomical.
It's pricing in a lot of perfection.
Exactly. It implies that the market is treating them like a high-growth software company, pricing in a massive amount of future commercial success that fundamentally has not materialized yet. You are paying a heavy premium today for megawatts that won't hit the grid until 2027.
Let's break that down even further, because our listeners need to know exactly how to navigate this kind of volatility in the near term.
Right.
Like, what is the 30-day catalyst calendar looking like? Where are the inflection points?
Okay, so the most immediate and critical date to circle is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. Oklo will be releasing its Q1 2026 financial results after the market closes.
But to be clear, the actual printed numbers on the earnings report aren't going to move the needle, right? We already know it will show zero revenue and continued cash burn.
Right. The actual numbers are almost irrelevant. The real action is going to be entirely based on forward guidance during the conference call.
Okay, so what should we be listening for?
When CEO Jacob DeWitt and CFO Craig Bielmeier take the microphone on May 12th, investors need to be listening for two very specific triggers. The first, and most important, is any language regarding the conversion of those non-binding agreements into binding bankable power purchase agreements, or PPAs.
The market desperately wants to see the 12-gigawatt switch agreement or that Equinix deal locked down. And, for anyone unfamiliar with project finance, a binding PPA is the absolute holy grail of infrastructure development.
Right.
Once Oklo has a binding KPA from a creditworthy tech giant, they can literally take that piece of paper to a major bank or institutional lender and use it as collateral to secure the billions in debt financing needed for physical construction.
It transforms a theoretical concept into guaranteed future cash flow.
Right.
The second key trigger to listen for on that call is concrete timeline updates regarding the combined license application, or CCOLA.
The KOA, yeah.
We talked earlier about the principal design criteria getting approved in 15 days, right? That was the master architectural blueprint. But the COLA is the actual site-specific license granted by the NRC to break ground, build, and legally operate the facility in Idaho.
So any forward guidance on when that application will be formally submitted and approved will serve as a major de-risking catalyst.
Huge. We also need to factor in the macro tailwinds. There is a lot moving at the federal level that is actively reshaping the playing field and playing directly into Oklo's core regulatory moat.
Absolutely. Investors need to keep a very close eye on the implementation of the Advance Act, as well as the momentum stemming from the May 2025 executive orders.
Yeah, both of those federal initiatives were explicitly designed by lawmakers to forcefully cut through bureaucratic red tape and mandate faster timelines for advanced nuclear licensing.
And the competitive advantage there is obvious, because Oklo has already proved they possess the engineering design and the internal regulatory chops to navigate the NRC faster than anyone else. Any further federal streamlining is going to disproportionately benefit them.
They are positioned to sprint through open doors while legacy companies are still trying to figure out how to turn the knob.
So on May 12th, is the market basically just waiting for management to utter the phrase binding contract to justify the current valuation?
In many ways, yes. The current multiple demands commercial execution. To sort of synthesize the overarching picture we've painted today, Oklo has firmly established itself as the premier regulatory moat play in the advanced nuclear sector.
For sure.
They possess a massive cash runway that insulates them from immediate dilution. They have a brilliant, vertically integrated fuel strategy that bypasses the geopolitical nightmare of the HALEU supply chain. And they are staring down an unprecedented 14-gigawatt AI demand pipeline.
But the reality check is that this is definitively a multi-year hold. It requires an investor with an iron stomach for volatility as they make the incredibly perilous physical and financial transition from a pre-revenue IP developer to a commercial powerhouse operator.
It is high risk, high reward, and deeply tethered to the biggest technological shift of our generation.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought to consider regarding that tech shift. We established that Oklo's first reactor isn't slated to generate power until late 2027 at the absolute earliest.
Sure.
The question is, will the hyperscalers, who are currently locked in a ruthless day-by-day arms race for AI supremacy, wait patiently for clean nuclear baseload power? Or will their insatiable immediate need to bring compute capacity online today force them to pivot and sign massive contracts for faster, dirtier, non-nuclear energy stopgaps, like natural gas peaker plants?
That is the trillion-dollar question hanging over this entire sector. Time is the one asset you cannot engineer in a laboratory.
All right, that is the lowdown for today. Thank you for tuning in to the Easy Money Show. Remember to subscribe so you never miss out when we simplify the market's most complex moves. Keep your eyes on that May 12th earnings call, and we will see you next time.